Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe Beck, and I'm going to do a tag today. This is the Top Tens tag. It's been going around for, I guess, about 9 months, and we're going to the last quarter of rankings that Jason over at Old Blues Chapter and Verse is doing. He's the creator of this tag. So this is talking about your 10 favorite books. And again, I have some series in here, but these are like the top, and it was really hard to do this list. I've actually filmed it once, and then I sat there and going, no, I need to change the rankings in the top 5 again. They were all the same books in the top 5. It's just I had to do a little manipulation. So here we are. I'm gonna show you my list and to add to that. I also thought it'd be kind of cool to see some of the ones I have multiple editions of. I don't have a lot of multiple editions of many books, but these are all like my favorite books, so a lot of them do actually have multiples, which is kind of funny. I didn't realize I'd done that, except when I think about how long a lot of these books have been on my shelves and why I accumulated a second copy, or you know, whatever. So I'm gonna go through them from 10 to 1. 1 is my favorite book of all time, and we're just gonna kind of go through this. A total disclaimer, or not disclaimer, but a little hint into why these are on my list. All these books I have reread at least twice, most of them more than that. To me, that makes it a favorite book if I am willing to keep rereading it. So just so you know, that's kind of one of my biggest things. So number 10 is my only nonfiction on this list. Most of my nonfiction is usually a one-time read, and that is it. But there are a few books that I've read over the years that I do intend to reread. And this was the first book that I read that was, I read it and I go, I know I'm going to reread this book. Even, you know, and I got a new copy of it just recently because the old one is kind of falling apart. Well, not really falling apart. Actually, it's a pretty good copy, but it's old. Anyway, yeah, well, I had a gift card. So anyway, that is Helter Skelter. The True Story of the Manson Murders by Vincent Velagosi and Kurt Gentry. So I have this really older copy. Actually, it's really good condition. I mean, it's just marked up a little bit, but really not that bad. But my dad found this for me when we were at Pal's on sale, so I just got a new copy. It's just nice and floppy. I admit it. I want to read this one. So I'm going to be rereading this actually this year because it's the 50th anniversary of all that happening. As I said, this is one of my favorite books because it was the one that taught me that I like hearing about an event and then all the research and stuff that went around it of why things happened that way or could have happened that way or that. And this is one of the first books that really blew my mind that way, and that was why this is, again, one of my favorite books, and I look forward to rereading that this year. As I said, I don't read as much true crime anymore, but I still look for the same things that are in this book, which is the, you know, taking the event and then exploring it. And so that's kind of a big deal for me. So anyway, that's number 10. Number 9 is the Nightside series by Simon R. Green. So this is the bind up of the first 3. The first book is Something from the Nightside. This is a great urban fantasy series. It's dealing with John Taylor, who can pretty much find anything. And he, at the beginning of the series, he has run away from the Nightside. The Nightside is an alternate, like a different dimension, sorry, that's kind of connected to London, and it's always 3 a.m. and you can pretty much buy anything, you know, including your, you know, or you can sell anything, including your soul. So, I really enjoy this series. I think there's 12 books in the series, and I've read the series through a couple of times, at least 3. And this was one of my favorite, urban fantasies. They're very quick books. You can see how small the rest of the books are. I mean, this happened, as I said, this is a bind up of 3 of them, and they're just fun. They're funny, and then they're wacky, and they're just, as I said, it's really good. And then there's good tension and action and all that stuff in there too. I have, I guess, good memories of this one as well. And I just said I just love the characters, so, and the world building, so, which is why it's on this list. Number 8 is going to be, I like this whole series, but I'm going to mention just the first book, Crocodile on the Sandbank by Elizabeth Peters. This is the first book in the Amelia Peabody series. This mystery series is one of my favorites. I do need to get to finishing it because I stopped at some point, but the first book is still my favorite of the whole series, but so it's on this list. I've read this book more than I've read any of the other books. I've definitely read this multiple times. I just love this first book. And this has to do with a woman, I think it's the I can't remember if it's the 1890s. She gets some money from her, or inherits money from her father when he passes away, and she finally gets to travel. And she decides to go to Egypt because she's always wanted to go there. And of course, chaos ensues with people she meets, and you know, it's just fun. I mean, there is a romance line in there, but I think the best part is all the interaction with all the characters. They make me laugh, and I love this book. Anyway, so it's a good mystery. I think it's 1890s, but anyway. I need to get back to this series, but maybe it's earlier than that. 1880s? I don't know. It's the late 1800s. I can't remember. Anyway, so that was number 8. Number 7 is The Moon Spinners by Mary Stewart. Now, I had a real hard time choosing one to put on this list. A lot of Mary Stewart's I like. This one and My Brother Michael are my favorite. I've read them by far the most. But I decided to go with The Moon Spinners on this list because it's the one I have read the most. I read it, it was probably the first one I read, and I will show you why in a minute. So this is my new pretty copy that you've probably seen a lot of booktubers have, and I bought them this last year. So, but the ones I grew up with was like this one. So this is my first copy. And then my mom had copies, my grandmothers have copies. They all read Mary Stewart, and I started reading them in high school. But I found one with the Hayley Mills on the cover. Now, if you know, there's a Disney movie with Hayley Mills and the Moon Spinners. The book and the movie do not really... This is like the first time I read a book after I watched the movie, and I went, that is nothing alike. They are so different. So they're different creatures. So don't assume what you remember if you ever saw that movie, which is a cute movie. But the book is so much better, and so many other things happen. I like the book so much better. But anyway, so I have quite a few copies. I might even have a hardback. I actually didn't look for that. Maybe my mom has the hardback. But I do have a couple of copies of that. So Moon Spinners is one of my favorites. And as I said, I'm rereading all the Mary Stewarts. I just haven't read them in a long time. So that could drop off not be my top one, but it was so close with My Brother Michael from what I remember that I chose that one, but still, I love that one. And then number 6 is The India Fan by Victoria Holt. Now, this one I know no one else is going to put that on this list, their list. It's just, I love this book, and I do have my grandmother's old hardback that she had too. Anyway, but this is a historical romance from, you know, the late 1800s. And it's talking about a girl, Drusilla, who grows up in a rectory next to a big, the Framing estate. And she's mixed up with the family because she's around the same age as the young girl. And then there's an older brother at the Framing, and there's chaos ensues as they're kids, and then as they're teenagers, and then as an adult, she goes to India to and gets involved with what's going on there too. So I really enjoy this book. It's hard to explain my attachment to it. I think I read this in high school the first time, and then I reread it probably every other year, if not every year, for like just last year. I know I didn't get to it, so this year I'll probably reread it here pretty soon. But I read it so often. It's just a favorite, and I don't. You know, like there's nothing I can say that this is the reason why. I just love this story, I guess. And it just hit me the right time at the time when I first read it, and every time I read it, it gives me that good feeling. Number 5, maybe not a surprise to a lot of people, but that is the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy by Tad Williams. So this was one of my first fantasy. It wasn't my first fantasy series that I read, but I did read it. It was like probably my second, and it was pretty much blew my mind as that's what epic fantasy should be. And there's a lot of things that don't live up to this. So I love this series. Again, it's it's talking about, it's epic fantasy. Anyway, follows a young boy, Simon, and how things are not what they seem, and there are people in the shadows who are doing bad things, and he gets kind of caught up in all that because he's just there. Anyway, I don't want to give anything away. I just love this series. Luckily, he is, you know, writing a second trilogy to this, and I'm of course enjoying that. Of course, the Witchwood Crown is right there, which is the first book in the next series. But the original series, I recommend it to anybody who wants to read epic fantasy. I think it still holds up, and it's very well done, even though it was written in the late 80s, early 90s. I love this series. It's just one of my favorites. And as I said, that's number 5 on my list. So number 4 was really hard for me, and I want to just say an author because I like almost all of her stuff. And if you guys have watched my channel for very long, you know that she's my favorite one to reread. But I decided to pick one of her 2 series, which was hard because I like both of them so much for different reasons. And then I just pulled this book off. It just happens to be one of them. But I went with the Guild Hunter series by Nalini Singh. I picked up the first book I picked up by her was Angel's Blood, and I was just blown away. I was not expecting to like it as well as I did. And then I read the next book and it just got better and better. So this is a series which it's kind of like Nowadays, but is with the twist, which is one of my favorite things to do. So it's paranormal romance, but to me it kind of verges with the urban fantasy really well. Like, it has a lot of that edge, but has the romance in it too. It has all the action and adventure that I want from urban fantasy. So that it's just one of the best series. Her size changing series is just as good. It's just a little slightly different. But this one kind of edged out. So this one has vampires, angels, and archangels, and it has to do with this whole world is going through a cascade, and there's things going on that are out of their control. And of course, our main character is a guild hunter who is able to scent things that not everybody else can. So she's a great hunter for runaway vampires and other things. So again, it has a really good couple that's in the middle of the series, and then it has a lot of offshoots, the other couples that get together through the time, which is so much fun. As I said, it's a great cross between urban fantasy and paranormal romance, and it has all the elements that I enjoy. So that was my number 4. Number 3 is The Three Musketeers by Alexander Dumas. So this has always been in my top 3. It's like since I read it when I was a teenager, and I recently reread it last year, and I was kind of worried it wouldn't still be on my list like that high, but it is. I still thoroughly enjoy this. I love the books. As I said, I'm determined to read the rest of the series, so I have read one more past this now. But Three Musketeers, of course, is the classic, the main one, where we're introduced to D'Artagnan and the Three Musketeers that he meets. Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. Sorry. Anyway, so I love this book. It's so much. I have not watched any adaptations in the last 10 years, but everything before that I watched. This is so much better than any adaptation. There's so much fun in here, and they're just goofy, the things that they do. But there's all the adventure and stuff. And Richelieu is my favorite villain, I must say. He's definitely he is my favorite villain, and I have a whole idea of why. But I have to show you. So this was the copy I bought last year because I didn't want to read my old copy, which I'm going to show you here in a second, because it's kind of old and smelly, because it's traveled everywhere with me, because I've had it probably since I was a teenager. And that is my movie copy of The Three Musketeers. I did actually read this from a library copy the first time, and then the movie came out after I read it, and it was the first time. There was another time where I went, this is not exactly the same. Anyway, I still have the movie copy, but I didn't want to read this one anymore, and I bought another copy. And this one was cool because it had all the notes, so that was even better because I learned a lot of stuff. So that is still number 3, which is really cool. Number 2 is one as I said, the top 5 I was kind of fluctuating a little bit about. And the first time I did this, I had this a little bit lower, but the more I thought about it, I go, no. This is like one of my favorite books. I've read this so many times, I actually can't count. I do like the rest of the series and all the rest of this author's books, but this book is still like the book that I love by her. And then that's Soulless by Gail Carriger. So this is steampunk, urban fantasy, Victorian times, where the vampires and werewolves are out. There are ghosts, and Alexa Terabody is what's called a soulless, and she is able to kind of neutralize supernaturals by touching them. So this has the elements that I enjoy. It has all the urban fantasy stuff of the creatures, and all those the political stuff with that. They have the magic part. It has a romance line. It has humor. This book makes me laugh so much. I love this book. These characters are so funny. I just love it. And the situations they get into, especially in this first book. The rest of the series is just as good. It's just, this book is phenomenal. And I did actually buy the hardback edition too. I don't know why I did. I was just supporting the author, I guess. I don't know. But this is my copy that's been, pretty battered because I've read it so many times. I actually even have this on ebook and audiobook because I've read it on my ebook, on my Kindle, and I've read it, sorry, audio at some point. I'm gonna have to drink, sorry. Anyway, so, second favorite book, clearly. I've read this so many times. I love this book. And, I just love it. Anyway. And then my number one book, I don't think it's going to be any surprise, since it hasn't appeared yet on this list, and I've talked about it, saying it's one of my favorite books of all time, and that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So this has been one of my favorite books probably since the first time I read it when I was a teenager, and I did not read it for class. I read it on my own, and as I said, like as Three Musketeers, which is, I wonder why those are tops, because I picked them to read, I guess, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, of course, Pride and Prejudice is one of Jane Austen's most well-known of her books, as well as so many adaptations, movies, and miniseries. But the book itself is just phenomenal. And again, I just did a reread on it, so I can attest this is still this is my favorite book. I have a lot of fond memories of studying this, as well as actually, I would say, one of the books that I studied in college that I actually still enjoy as much as I did before I studied it in college. So that's kind of cool. As I said, this follows the Bennet family, and especially Elizabeth, or Lizzie Bennet, and her interactions with Mr. Darcy. And it's such a commentary on social standing and on perceptions of other people from what you hear from other people, and when you should really, or not what you believe and what you should take for what you see. There's so much good stuff in here, and on my reread it was just so much more stuff that I really enjoyed reading. But it is still my number one book. I would still, if someone said I had to pick one, this is still my favorite book of all time. So those are all my books. Wow, I took a really long time to do that. Sorry, guys. But those are my top 10 at this moment. They could change in 5 minutes. Anyway, but I think most of these, I didn't change any of the books. As I said, I just flipped around a couple of books at the top. But really, I think these are all, there's a couple books I wish I could have gotten on this list, but they were like 11, 12, 13 kind of things. But I think these are really the books that I am drawn to reread, the ones that I pick up, or the ones that I tell people that these are my favorite books all the time. So I don't think these surprised me when I put this list together. These really are all the books that I say are my favorites. So anyway, that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't done this, you should do it so that Jason can get all his data. I think he's going to do it for a few more months. So that should be kind of interesting. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.